Lesson purpose. A major problem in teaching economy is dealing with what people know that is not so, or at the very least, is incomplete. Familiarity with the media conversation about economics conditions lead to a comfort level that, unfortunately, keep many people from wondering about their belief or testing them against new knowledge and experiences. That everyone knows about inflation and unemployment make it more difficult to teach. But it also increases the value of helping students arrive at a sound understanding of the concepts, models, and terminology of economic issues that will be an ongoing part of their daily economic lives. This lesson goes beyond the data and terminology of measuring inflation and unemployment to look at the impact of the economy and on individuals of changes in the level of prices and employment. By acknowledging the continuity of change, focusing on how change redefines winners and losers in the economy, and by pointing out that things are not always with what they seem, lesson on employment and inflation can demonstrate how economic education adds value to people's lives and help them know more that is so.
The population. According to the UN statistic, South Korea 2020 expect a population of 51,269.185. What interesting is, the South Korea population equals 0.69% of the entire world population. National income of South Korea increased to 443,086.50 KRW billion in quarter of 2020. Main sector contribute the most significant industry in South Korea are textile, steel, automobiles, shipbuilding, and electronics production. South Korea gross national debt total 4,685.5 trillion gains of the first quarter of this year, more than 240% of its present GDP.
Next, I'm going to explain about the trend of inflation and unemployment rates in South Korea 1966 until 2020. So we're going to see inflation first. Inflation. South Korea's consumer prices increased 0.1% year-on-year in October of 2020, following a 1.0 rise percent in the previous months. While market expected a 0.7% gain, it was the lowest inflation in 4 months. As communication fees declined 21.7% over a year ago, largely due to a temporary government subsidy on mobile phone bills amid the COVID-19 pandemic. On a monthly basis, consumer prices plunged 0.6% after rising 0.7% in the previous month. Also surprising, market expectation of a 0.1% increase. We're going to see unemployment rates in South Korea 1966 until 2020. So let's go. The unemployment rates in South Korea jumped 4.2% in October 2020 from 3.9% in the previous month, and compared to 3.5% in the same month of the previous year. The rate was also well above expectation of 3.6%. The number of unemployed increased by 81,000 to 1.170 million, while the number of employed went up by 54,000 to 26.841 million. Meanwhile, the labor force participation rates increased to 62.4% from 62.2%, and the employment rates remain at the 59.8%.
Monetary and fiscal policies. Korea's fiscal response is also based on international standard. Compared to other OECD economies in 2009, Korea seems to be more interested in providing fiscal stimulus. To make international comparison possible, fiscal balance here are defined as total expenditure less total general tax and non-tax received as reported in the OECD Economic Outlook. The magnitude of the Korean fiscal response in 2009 could be attributed to a number of reasons. First, demonstrate in the 1997 to 1998 ASEAN crisis, concern over exchange rate stability could substantially limit the scope for counter-cyclical monetary policies, particularly in developing countries. Second, fiscal policy has a relatively short external lag. Long-term delay in fiscal policy can be reduced through the practice of additional budgeting and early withdrawal. Third, compared to other OECD economies, Korea has relatively small automatic stabilizer. This means that Korea needs to rely more on discretionary action for stabilization.
According to the Statistics Korea, the consumer price index stood at 104.86 in July, up to 0.2% for the 6 months in the last year, after peaking 1.5% in January, as the COVID-19 pandemic reduced the demand of inflationary pressure. The turnaround in headline inflation in July was largely to the higher prices for products. However, the consumer price is to 1.1% in February, 1.0% in March, and 0.1% in April. And yes, South Korea inflation was slowed down in October 2020. Now that we have dealt with the inflation, now let's move out to the unemployment. The total of unemployment in South Korea was 860,000 workers transitioned to secure jobs or unemployment in April, pointing to a jobless rate of 14.9%, which is 4.42 million out of 29.68 million of adults. Under the COVID-19, the number of contingent workers dropped significantly by 500,000 in May, which is 7.5 million in 2019. 9.2% young people are still reportedly unemployed, and another 17.2% are in insecure position. As the things happen, South Korea unemployment rate dropped in August, as government is planning another extra budget to battle the coronavirus revival. Exactly, the unemployment rate in August was down to 3.2% from 4.2% from last month.
Now we move to the impact of government stimulus package on national debt. South Koreans have been embarking on a campaign to collect gold since December of that year as a way to pay off foreign debt. The campaign was followed by 3,500,000 people, and the foreign media praised the spirit of the South Korean people in overcoming the monetary crisis. The gold collected through the campaign became a platform to escape the national crisis. The changing economic system made South Korea's economic situation more stable, improved export competitiveness, and trade balance surplus are increasing, so that foreign exchange reserves are also full. This allows South Korea to quickly repay its debt to the IMF. Finally, South Korea managed to break free from IMF control on August 23, 2001 by paying the entire IMF rescue fund. In the process of such difficulty, South Korea repaired a dilapidated economic structure and provided a platform for a lead back. The whole world remembers South Korea as a role model in overcoming the IMF monetary crisis.
In conclusion, the coronavirus affects a country's economic organization. The rise in virus cases affect many economic factors and has radically changed the national economy. The coronavirus is really bad for the economy, for the system, for all countries in the world. However, the epidemic is still causing growth in some sectors of the economy. For example, the demand for masks and sanitizer and disinfectants is very high. This is because wearing a mask and sanitizer and using disinfectant can prevent the spread of the virus. Thus, the supply of masks and disinfectant has also increased. It's really good for the economy. When there is a high demand for the product from the market, thus labor consumption also increased. Therefore, employment opportunities has been increased and people economies can be repaired. Finally, the coronavirus has both positive and negative effect for the country economic growth. The coronavirus can be positive and can be negative. To increase knowledge and improve living standards, we need to be smart in handling the economy and taking note. So that's it for our group for the inflation and employment in South Korea. So that's it. Thank you very much.